Okay.
Okay, so maybe I guess we will start. So again, as usual, we will start with the first trying to quiet your mind by watching the breath. Then we can generate a good intention by thinking, may our coming here together become cause and conditions to destroy all the afflictive emotions. And especially the very root of all those afflictive emotions, the fundamental ignorance, self-grasping. May it become cause and condition to actualize the wisdom relies on the emptiness directly. That can act as a direct antidote towards those afflictive emotions and the very root of those afflictive emotions. May it become cause and conditions to achieve buddhahood as soon as possible. So we can perform the well-being of all sentient beings. In the highest level way, in the most beneficial way. Okay, so to the founder, the endowed transcendent destroyer, the one born beyond, the four destroyer, the complete perfected, fully awakened being, perfect in knowledge and in good conduct, Sugha, the knower of the world, supreme guide of human beings to be tame, teachers of God and human beings, to you, the completely and fully awakened one, the endowed transcendent destroyer, the glorious conqueror, the subduer from the Shakya clan, I prostrate, make offering and go for refuge. Homage to the Supreme Buddha, homage to the Dharma refuge, homage to the great Sangha, to all three ever devout homage. To all worthy of respect, bowing with bodies as many as all realms, atoms in all aspects, with your supreme faith I pay homage. Do not commit any non-virtuous action, perform only perfect virtuous actions, subdue your mind thoroughly. This is the teaching of the Buddha. A star, a visual appreciations, a flame of a lamp, an illusion, a drop of dew, or a bubble, a dream, a flash of lightning, a cloud, see condition, things as such. To this merit, may sentient beings attain the rank of all seeing, subdue the four of force, and be delivered from samsara oceans, perturbed by the wave of aging, sickness, and death. I prostrate to the archetypal jet. Thus did I hear one time that Bhagavan was dwelling on the massive Bolshan mountain in Rajgir, together with a great community of monks and great community of Bodhisattvas. At that time, the Bhagavan was observed in concentration on the categories of phenomena called profound perception. Also at that time, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva Arya Avalokiteshvara looked upon the very practice of profound perfection of wisdom and beheld those five aggregates also as empty of inherent nature. Then through the power of the Buddha, the Venerable Shariputra said this to the Bodhisattva Mahasattva Arya Avalokiteshvara. How should any son of the lineage train who wish to practice the activities of profound perfection of wisdom? He said that, and the Bodhisattva Mahasattva Arya Avalokiteshvara said this to the Venerable Shariputra. Shariputra, any son of the lineage or daughter of the lineage who wish to practice the activities of profound perfection of wisdom should look upon it like this correctly and repeatedly, beholding those five aggregates also as empty of inherent nature. Form is empty, emptiness is form, emptiness is not other than form is also not other than emptiness. In the same way, feeling, discrimination, compositional factor, and consciousness are empty. Shariputra, likewise, all phenomena are emptiness, without characteristic, unproduced, unceased, stainless, not without stain, no deviation, not fulfilled. Shariputra, therefore, in emptiness, there is no form, no feeling, no discrimination, no compositional factor, no consciousness, no eye, no ear, no nose, no tongue, no body, no mind, no visual form, no sound, no order, no taste, no object of touch, and no phenomenon. There is no I element and so on up to and including no mind element and no mental consciousness element. There is no ignorance, no extinction of ignorance and so on up to and including no aging and death and no extinction of aging and death. Similarly, there is no suffering, origination, cessation, and path. There is no exalted wisdom, no attainment, and also no non-attainment. Shariputra, therefore, because there is no attainment, Bodhisattva rely on and dwell in perfection of wisdom, the mind without obscuration and without fear. Having completely passed beyond error, they reach in point of nirvana. All the Buddhas who dwell in 3 times also manifestly completely awaking to the unsuppressible, perfect, complete enlightenment in the life of perfection of wisdom. Therefore, the mantra of perfection of wisdom, the mantra of great knowledge, the unsuppressed mantra, the mantra equal to the unequal, the mantra that truly pacifies all suffering, should be known as truth since it's not false. The mantra of perfection of wisdom is declared. Tata Om Gade Gade Paragade Parasangade Bodhe Soha. Shariputra, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva, should train in the profound perfection of wisdom like that. Then the Bhagavan arose from the concentration and commanded the Bodhisattva Mahasattva Arya Avalokiteshvara, saying, well said, son of the lineage, it is like that, it is like that. One should practice the profound perfection of wisdom just as you have indicated. Even the Tathagatas rejoice. The Bhagavan, having thus spoken, the Venerable Shariputra, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva Arya Avalokiteshvara, and those surrounding the entirety, along the world of gods, humans, asura, and Gandharva were overjoyed and highly praised. That's spoken by the Bhagavan. The next one. Sa shibe ge chon shime to dan re ra le se ni de gen ba de sang ge jin do ni de u wa do gun nama da shen che ba jo ye dang guru rana me da la ni ya ya. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Essence. By the merits I create through listening to the Dharma, may I become a Buddha in order to benefit all sentients. Sangye Jodasa Visonam, Chanchu Badu Dani, Dagi Chuje Give Sonam, Dola Pinche Sangye Doba, Sangye Jodasa Visonam, Chanchu Badu Dani, Dagi Chuje Give Sonam, Dola Pinche Sangye Doba. Sangye Shodanta Visonam, Chanchu Badu, Dagi Chuje Give Sonam, Dola Pinche Sangye Doba. So we are in the middle lamrim, the sections on the shamatha and special insight. Within that, we are in the section of special insight, and within that, establishment of selflessness of person and phenomena. And so, having finished establishing the selflessness of persons, then establishing the mind as a selflessness, and then after that, the meaning of appearance of illusion-like, and so understanding all phenomena as like the appearance like illusions, and the meaning of that, unmistaken meaning of that. So we're in that sections. And I think in terms of the PDF, we are in 244 page numbers. And I think we are on where it says, in the main kind of outline, fellowship's manner of appearing like illusion. So the mistaken, the mistaken manner of appearing like illusions. So, so here it is. Lam Tsongkhapa explained. We have to understand the measure of at the very when we talk about four essential points. The first essential point from that understanding the object of negation clearly. If that is not established well, then even when you do analysis, when you analyze without really grasping fully the object of negations, and then when you do analyze with the reasoning, what is self, what is persons, when you do conduct analysis, then you tend to come to where you cannot find the self with that kind of analysis. And when you cannot find that analysis, then you do same analysis to the subject, the mind that is analyzing. And when you analyze that, the very subject, the very mind which is analyzing the self, what is that mind that is analyzing? And when you do the analysis, again, with the similarly, then again, you come to a conclusion that you cannot find that the subject, the consciousness that is analyzing, So you see, and so when you have that, then of course, there is no subject. There is this is that, this is this, that is that, this and that. So there is all that. And so when you come to that kind of understanding, then after that, there is a vague appearance, instead of a kind of solid, clear appearance, but it is a kind of vague appearance arises, and that kind of vague appearance of that kind of vague is not the appearance like real illusions here we're talking about. So here Lam Tsongkhapa is saying, that kind of vague appearance is not like the appearance like illusion that we're describing, unmistaking that. And that kind of is here Lam Tsongkhapa said, because of not being able to distinguish, non-inherently existent, non-existence, and merely existence and inherent existence. So when you are unable to distinguish that, then there can be that problems, So so even when you have that kind of vague appearance, that is not a real unmistaken appearance like illusion. So in such emptiness, here says, emptiness that destroy interdependence. the real understanding of emptiness should be supporting the interdependence, not destroying the interdependence. Okay? But when we have that kind of understanding, incorrect understanding, then it destroyed the dependent arising on interdependent. And so therefore, that is why mistaken. If it's unmistaken emptiness, then it should be supporting dependent arising, interdependent, by understanding the meaning of emptiness. With Lama Tsongkhapa come later, the meaning of emptiness is interdependent, the meaning of interdependence is emptiness, by verses, and not destroying each one, So so therefore, at the end here, hence, even though the vague appearance arises after that kind of analysis, induced by that realization, this is not at all the meaning of being like an illusion. So that is not all the unmistaken meaning like illusion, because when you have unmistaken understanding of appearance of like an illusion, then it will not destroy the dependent arising. Instead, it will support the dependent arisings. So in these cases, it is destroying the dependent arisings, When you analyze, you cannot find at the same time, you cannot establish anything. Yeah. When it's unmistaken, you do analysis, and then through that analysis, afterward, you are able to establish illusion like appearance, merely label appearance, so that is the difference. So, and so such appearance like the vague here, Lama Tsongkhapa is saying, it's not difficult to have that kind of understanding and realizations. Whereas true understanding of emptiness, according to Madhyamika, is not so easy to realize and have understanding. And then it is like, for example, just give you one more kind of simple example, without really understanding the object of negation, clearly. So if you analyze, is this cup, is this the handle, the cup, whether the bottom part is this the cup, is this side the cup, is that side the cup? If you do that analysis, you cannot find cup within that. That is not difficult to understand. Do you get it? It's not difficult to understand if you have some idea, if you have learned the Madhyamika school of thoughts, and if we know how to analyze this a little bit. So anyone who have interest in that and who have studied a little bit, even they can analyze, and they can, anyone, they can say, oh, this is not cup, this is not cup, this is not cup, this is not cup. The cup cannot be, I cannot find each part of those cup. That is not so difficult. If that is the only understanding emptiness, then we all would have an understanding emptiness. But just that itself, so that is where he's saying, and then you cannot. So this is not cup, this is not cup, and then there's no cup, and then you think, oh, there's no cup. That is the emptiness that destroyed the dependent arising. And through that, having that kind of vague appearance instead of a kind of solid, concrete appearance, but a kind of vague appearance arises, even for that. And that is saying is not that to have that kind of appearance and that kind of understanding is not difficult. Anyone who has so there at the end of that, where Lama Tsongkhapa said, Something like that occurred to everyone with interest in Madhyamika tenet who have heard the little bit of Dharma being taught about how there is no inherent existence. So now I think now we have a kind of, now we might have a doubt whether we are doing the analyze correctly. Isn't it? Because that is how when we do analyze is very similar, same. But here Lama Tsongkhapa is saying, in order to that kind of analysis, even though that kind of analysis is not incorrect, but in order to that analysis to become effective and to lead to an unmistakable realization, first you need to have exactly understanding of the object of negations clearly, so then you don't miss the target. Even though the arrow is the analyze is like the arrow, even though you have the right arrow, but you miss the target. And so that is where that when we do the meditation with those 4 essential points, that is the first essential point that is very clear, important to have that correct understanding of the object of negation, what really the something that we are trying to negate through our such analysis and meditations. How does that object that is being negated appear to our ignorance or our mind exactly? We have to identify that exactly. If we miss that, then the rest of our analysis does not become so effective, and it could lead to something else. Yes, Shankar? Yes.
So is this referring, are you referring to, like, for example, if you find that the mind doesn't exist as it appears to, right? So you have a sense of the non-existence of the mind, but that's not the same as the I, right? So you have this vacuity and you think that's emptiness, but that's not really emptiness. Is that kind of what you're talking? Because if you think existence and emptiness, because then that can get you to nihilism, right? Because then you are meditating on the permanence of on the permanence, right? Did that make sense?
Can you repeat the second part?
So my question is, sometimes when you are meditating on the conventional nature of the mind, right? So the space-like nature of the mind, and you mistake it for emptiness. Right? So then you are no longer meditating on the lack of inherent existence of the I. What you're really meditating on is the non-existence of the mind as it appears, but then you are really, you fall into the nihilism, right? Because you are then, not nihilism, permanence. You fall into permanence, right? Because then you are really meditating on the non-existence of mind, or the, that makes sense? Maybe not.
Well, I think because of the connection here, sometimes your question gets cut out, so I cannot hear clearly. I hear some, and then you get stuck there, and but I think I understood your questions. Here, I don't think Lama Tsongkhapa is talking about meditating on conventional nature of the mind, and especially in this area, here is saying when you don't recognize the object of negation clearly, and then when you analyze whether this is this, whether this is that, and that, I give you example of the cup, then there is danger to lead to nihilism, because you are not actually negating inherently existing object, but you are negating the object itself. Because, is this cup, is this cup, is this cup, without really identifying what is object to negate, that is inherently existing cup. So not being able to distinguish inherently existing cup and cup. And then when you try to, without kind of differentiating inherently existing cup and cup, because we have not really understood the object of negation clearly. And so then when you say, oh, whether this is cup, this, then you are actually negating the cup itself instead of negating inherently existing cup. And when you do that, then that leads to nihilism that destroy the depending arisings. And so that is where Je Tsongkhapa is, I think, where he's saying, so that kind of analysis. And that is because we have not been able to identify clearly inherently existing cup and cup, existence of the cup. And that is because we have not identified the object of negation clearly.
So I have a follow-up question, if I may.
Yes.
Okay. So if I bring up the object of negation, the first point, right, in my mind as I meditate on emptiness, and let's say that the classic example where I think of some situation where my eye arises, right? Like anger or jealousy or whatever it happens to be. And I meditate on that arising I, the self, and I look at it and I negate the inherent existence of it because I look around and see where it exists and where does it exist inside the mind and the body, or does it exist outside, and so forth and so on. And I understand that it doesn't exist that way. Then I am only negating the self-sufficient, the self-sufficient I, right? It's not necessarily negating the madhyamika view of the I. Is that correct?
That could or could not. That depends on how you have been able to identify the object of negation. When we talk about object of negations, there can be gross level object of negation, subtle level, and more subtle according to Prasangika point of view. So if your identification is on more gross level or subtle level, but not more subtle level, and then if you do analysis that and you cannot find the self of that, then it will be only negating the gross, but not the subtle level. And that is the point, as you mentioned. The classical example is to allow that strong sense of self to arise. And then when you have that strong self, then see how the self appear to your mind at that time. And so through that, does it appear inherently existent? Does it appear, merely level I or whatever? So through that kind of identification, then you really recognize exactly how it appears unmistakably. And once you identify that correctly, then when you do that kind of reasoning analysis, then it becomes effective. And so that is then you are not really negating the self itself, but you are negating inherently existing self. But when you don't have that correct identification of that, then we might be negating the self instead of inherently existing self. So that is the problem. And so that is where here, I think Lama Tsongkhapa again making more clarity on that too.
Okay, thank you, Geshe. Yes, that's clear.
Thank you. So here then, Lama Tsongkhapa, in order to have a correct meaning of that, understanding, then there need to be two things. So why is difficult? Why is it difficult to have an appearance like illusions? Correct understanding of or realization of appearance like illusions, because there need to be 2 points. On one point, we have come to a certainty from the depth of our heart, how the thing object is empty of inherent existing through analysis, examinations, through reasoning, you come to a 100% certainty that it is empty of inherent existence. Why? So that is one point. You are absolutely certain that is empty of inherent existence because you have with that kind of reasoning analysis. While it's empty of inherent existence, the self, at the same time, you are able to proceed and establish that self to be creator of the karma. And the self to be the one who is experiencing result of your past actions, karma. The self that is affecting good way, bad way to you and others, So to be able to establish what is absolutely empty or inherent at the same time that it can function. There's a self that functions. There's a self that functions as someone who is accumulating the karma, someone who is experiencing the result of karma, who is experiencing result of your actions, someone who is affecting positively, negatively to yourself, others. And so to be able to proceed or establish those both 2 points simultaneously become difficult point here, and not negating each other's. So that is why it is. And that is the problem we have, isn't it? When we do the analysis, it seems like there's no eternally existence, but it's difficult to establish that it exists. And that is not only difficulty with us, even though many Buddhist school of thoughts, that is the problem they are having. Not being able to establish both of them. For them, if something is functioning, if something is, depending on cause and conditions, then it has to be inherent existence. But if something is not inherently existent, then that means it cannot exist. So therefore, there is no functioning of that. So that is the difficulty of understanding by other schools, and not only other schools. Sometimes we find we also have that in terms of our innate feelings that we have, that we also have that difficulties. When we say, this flower does not exist from its own side, then we have difficulty. How can then the flower smells? How can it has color? How can it function as a flower? Isn't that we have a difficulty when we say there is no flower from its own side? The moment we say there is a flower from its own side, then there is always feeling there's flower inherent existence. So we have difficulty while to be able to proceed. This is flower does not exist from its own side, at the same time is able to function as a flower and effect differently, isn't it? So that is the same thing, same to be able to proceed both together. And now I think maybe John's, your questions, for example, some of the other schools, other Buddhist schools, they will say this flower is dependent arising. They all know. Not only they say, even ordinary child can understand it is a dependent arising, that it comes from its seed, water, and all of that. They see with their eyes and they can see. Not only that, even some of the animals can understand dependent arising on a gross level. That is why they try to avoid certain things, because they know that give them a sick disease that will make them sick. So they avoid that, because if they know if they eat that, they will make them sick. So they know that give pain and suffering. So they have understanding of cause and conditions, certain level of dependent arising, but that is much more gross level. So their point of school is, if this flower does not exist from its own side, then what is different from the flower in the dream? So they will say the flower in the dream does not exist from its own side, therefore it isn't a functional flower. Unlike the flower in the dream, this flower exists from its own side. That is why it has a functioning of the flower different from the flower in the dream. So therefore they say this is dependent arising, because it depends on cause, seed, water, and fertilizer. At the same time, it exists from its own side, objectively. And because it is existing objectively from its own side, therefore is inherent existence. So that is their point of view. So therefore, while they say it's a dependent arising, not only they say it's dependent arising, because it's a dependent arising, therefore is inherent existence. And so that is opposite of what Prasangika says. And because they say, for example, because again, I think if we understand the logic they make, and they are not kind of crazy, they have a logic. Really, they also have certain logic, because they say, what is the difference between the flowers in the dream and this flower? The flower in the dream does not exist from its own side. Therefore, it isn't a function of the flower. This one exists from its own side. Therefore, it is a function of that. And the moment you say that flower exists from its own side, then from Prasangika point of view, then that become inherent existence. Exists from its own side, inherent existence, then they have same meaning. So I think that is, I think because John has been asking questions for a long time, he doesn't understand how the other school of the Buddhists, how they say dependent arising, at the same time they say it's inherent existence. It seems contradictions. And from Nagarjuna point of view, it seems definitely is a contradiction. But from their point of view, they have a reason. And not only they have a reason, that's how we also feel a little bit. Don't you feel that way too? My innate mind feels that way when I don't analyze. I feel, I don't feel the flower in my dream existing from its own side, but I do feel this flower exists from its own side. Even though I say it's dependent arising, I know it's dependent arising. I see it coming from the cause. It sees and all of that. I see that. I understand it's dependent arising. At the same time, I have this feeling it is existing from its own side. If it doesn't exist from its own side, how this is different from the flower in the dream? The very reason it functions as flower is because it arises from its own side, objectively. And the moment you said that, then that means it is inherent existence. And so that's, did it clarify a little bit, John? Or you are still not clear?
No, it does, Geshe, and I was looking up some other things while you were talking, so I'm going to have to listen to this again so I can get it. But there's a passage too in I was going to put it up. I don't know if that's the time. Which we spoke about before was when this is where, with respect to the innate view of the transitory collection, which is the apprehension of a self, the commentary on the middle way refutes the aggregates are its observed object, and in the commentary it is said to have the dependently imputed self as its absorbed object. It is said that even the mere collection of aggregates is not the conventional self, so neither the collection of the aggregates at one time nor the collection of which is the continuum of the aggregates from an earlier or later moment is observed. Rather, and this is the point that I got, the mere I, which is the observed object of the mere thought I arising of the mere person, should be taken as the observed object. Neither the individual aggregates nor the collection is posited as the basis of the characteristics of that. So to me, that was negating this, the subtle view, not the most subtle view that we have of the transitory collection, thinking that it's part of but also owns the aggregates. This is saying the mere I, which is the observed object of the mere thought I arising, is this real sense of I.
Well, what it's saying is when we have sense of self, the self that exists, we are talking about the sense that exists, the object of observed object of that is neither the aggregates, individual aggregate, neither is the collection of aggregate, neither is the continuity of the aggregate, but it is the merely imputed the person that is objective observed object of that self. Because some other school of thought, they proceed that some of them is the continuity of the aggregate as a being the self, some of them as the collection of that being aggregate, collection of aggregate as the self. Because again, the problem is, as we already I mentioned, when you analyze within the objects, whether it can be found within the object or the basis of the objects. All the other Buddhist school of thought, in order to establish something exists, when you analyze this, you should be able to find within the basis of the objects. Otherwise, you cannot establish them existence. So when you find where is the self, then some of them find within the collection of aggregates. Some of them find within the continuity of the aggregate. Some of them find the consciousness, one of the aggregates as the self, and that is being negated by the Prasangika. Each of them is not you cannot find in each of them are neither the self, but self is merely imputed. It's merely imputed on the basis of those aggregates. So that one is that, yeah.
So Geshe, I just got that though, that the mere it's really the thought I arising of the mere person should be taken as its observed object. So the other way of looking at it, as it being part of or owner of the collection of aggregates, the Prasangika view is that it's the mere I, which is the thought I arising of the mere person. That's the thing to be negated.
The things to be negated is that the self, the wrongs.
Oh, sorry, I don't mean that the thought is wrong. It's that actual thought is the
Mistaken.
mistaken. Yeah.
Yeah. The aggregate to be grasping as a self is mistaken. The collections of the aggregate to be self is mistaken. The continuity of the aggregate to grasp as a self is mistaken. So all of them are mistaken. Yes, Anga?
So I don't know if this will help or not, but I was reading Kyabje Pabonka Rinpoche's commentary on the Middle Length Lamrim, and he says, furthermore, the I that appears to be truly existent, self-supporting I in the innate view of the transitory collection is not the object of negation. The object of negation is the taking of said appearance, the truly existent self-supporting I, to be real, right? So it's not that that when I bring up the that's what I was trying to get to. I think that when I meditate on the I that arises when I'm, out of anger or jealousy or whatever it is, that I see that as the object of negation, but that's not it. It's the fact that I arises. It's not inherently existent, but yet I think it's real to me as inherently existent, right? Is that correct? Is that not what John is talking about with the thought of it's the difference between the appearing object of my conceptual consciousness versus the determined object, right?
Well, to our mind, when we have a strong sense of I, there's the appearance of inherently existing self, and on the basis of appearance of inherently existing self, then we believe or grasp inherently existing self. So it is not that there is different appearance and then we are grasping something else. First, there is the appearance of inherently existing self, and not only there's appearance of inherently existing self, the next moment we grasp or apprehend mistakenly as it appears as truly existence, and that is the problem.
Right. Okay, I think that's, I understand now what Rinpoche is saying over here. Okay.
Because even there is appearance, if we don't follow that appearance, then appearance is mistaken, but the mind which apprehending doesn't have to be mistaken, like illusions. Magician who create the illusion, there's appearance of the horse, but he or she doesn't believe that. So there's appearance, but their belief is different. In our cases, there's appearance, and then we follow up that and we believe that is the case. And that is the ignorance. That's that whatever you call, I don't know, you call misapprehend or apprehend.
So that misapprehension is then the
ignorance.
And then the object of negation is that misapprehension, correct?
Well, the object of negations in again, here we are talking to the object itself. I think if you read Je Tsongkhapa's Great Lamrim, the object of negation, there are two types of object of negations. The object of negation, the object of negations of the object of negations of reasoning. And so the object of negations of path is the ignorance. So that is the ignorance. And the object of negation of the reasoning is the truly existing self or truly existing objects. So, but here when we talk object of negation, we are referring to the object of the negation of object of the reasoning. So that is the object appearance of truly existence.
Right. Okay.
Or inherent existence. Okay. And so because that you need to have both of them, then that is where it becomes difficult here to have a correct realization of emptiness and correct realization of appearance like illusions. So that is where Lama Tsongkhapa says. And then, again, if you are mistaken concerning the measure of object, negation everything, the illusion cannot be anything beyond a rabbit hole. So again, we have to appreciate, again, Lama Tsongkhapa kind of remind again and again to differentiate that what is being negated. What is being negated is truly existing and not existence. And we have to differentiate those two things. When we try to negate truly existence, we shouldn't be confused with negating existence. And when we confuse the truly or inherently existing that is being negated to be negating existence, then we fall into the nihilism that Lama Tsongkhapa explained before. Such emptiness is the emptiness that destroys dependent arisings. Such understanding will not lead to correct appearance like illusions. It wouldn't lead to correct appearance like illusions, because that would lead to non-existent, like a rabbit head or horn, So that is why Lama Tsongkhapa explained. And then we similarly, Aryadeva said in 400 stanzas, both in his, if they were so, how would existence not resemble like illusions, So if the things were non-existent, then it would not resemble illusions. When we say like illusions, when we say illusions, what it means is empty of what appears, but at the same time there is something. Do you get it? There is the appearance. Similarly, so therefore, when something do not truly exist, but at the same time there is appearance and functioning, then it resembles the illusion, the example. Otherwise, it does not exist at all, and there is no functioning of that, and appearance of, then it doesn't resemble the illusions. So that is where Lama Aryadeva was saying. Then that is clarified in his commentary, auto commentary. You can see if you read it, auto commentary there, just below there. Yes, Matthew.
So this appears as a cat, right? Mm-hmm. But if you see this as a living being, you're grasping at inherent existence.
Yeah, it depends. Someone might be grasping it. Someone might be believing that as a cat, merely labeled cat, so then it is not inherent existence. Or merely labeled being is not grasping inherently. But someone grabs it is inherently existing cat, then you're grasping. If you grasp it is inherently existing another being, is same.
But yeah, like if you see that as a living being, if an inherently living being, or if you see that flower that you showed and you look at that and you think that's a living thing, ultimately there's nothing that's living. There's nothing there that's living. Those are all constantly changing, non-living elements that are constantly changing, that together appear to be that function as a living being, but ultimately there's no living being that is there.
Yeah, ultimately there is no living being, there's no non-living beings. There's neither both of them, which is both of them. There's neither, which is not both of them. on ultimate level. On ultimate level, absolutely. So on ultimate level, we cannot make distinction between living or not living. All these distinguish that we make are on conventional level, on relative level. This is living being, this is not living beings, all are only on relative level, only on conventional level. But if you go beyond that conventional and relative level, then there's no distinguish between living and not living. They all are empty of existing from their own side. Yeah. And then next one, yeah. So again, in a commentary by in 400 stanzas, it make very clearly, what is the meaning of the illusion life, appearance of illusion life, that is not negating the existence itself, but it is negating inherent existence. While it's negating inherent existence, but then there is something left behind that is functioning phenomena, objects. And so therefore it does not contradict that kind of, when you have that understanding of appearance like illusion, according to that, then it doesn't contradict the dependent arising. It doesn't contradict the dependent arising when you have that. Otherwise, even though you might be saying the same example like illusion, but you might be contradicting the dependent arisings. And so that is where it says, so therefore, in that, Je Tsongkhapa says, therefore, upon such thorough analysis, since the inherent existence of things is not established, because that has been negated by the reasoning and logic, that illusion like appearance itself will be left as a remnant for each things. So when you analyze, there's nothing that inherently truly exists. At the same time, what's left is something that exists conventionally that can function, whatever that phenomena is, So therefore, when you have that understanding, then it does not negate the dependent arising. It doesn't contradict the dependent arisings. And so that is very different from when you have the mistaken emptiness that is described before, where it contradicts the dependent arisings, negate dependent arising. So therefore, the apprehensions of appearance as something illusion-like, so which is interdependent, merely exists, is not a faulty apprehension of illusions, okay? But on the other hand, an illusion appearance where apprehended established by their own entity or truly existent, that will be the fault. That is the mistaken one. Mistaken understanding of illusion like appearance, when we have that kind of things, okay? So then in the King of Sutra, it says, in going through cycle existence, it's like a dream, even though it appears something in the dream, but it was not real. No one is born here, nor does anyone die in emptiness. In ultimately, no one die, no one is born, no one is die. No sentient beings or human being, no life can be found when you analyze. Ultimately, nothing, no sentient being or no human being can be found. And therefore, all these phenomena, are like poem is very fragile, fragile. So the life conditioned phenomena are like fragile, such as human beings and sentient beings. All the conditioned phenomena, they are planted in trees that doesn't have essence. There's no really essence in that plant tree. So like that, there's no real essence. Like illusions, just like a creation of the magicians, but there's nothing real as it appears the way magicians are created. Lightning in the sky. So just as lightning in the sky is just moment, it only lasts moment, very quick. All conditioned phenomena are like that. And momentary, it does not last. And like a moon in water, even though there is a reflections of even though in water, when there is a reflection of moon, even though it looks like there is moon, but it is not a real moon. And like a mirage, due to many cause and condition from the distance, you might see there is water, because of certain substance there, because of certain lightning, because of certain direction from where you are looking, there's a sense of water due to many cause and condition, but there's no real water there. And so same way, due to many cause and condition, all these phenomena appear and it has its own functioning. But when you really analyze, then there's nothing that can be found inherently truly existence within the basis of that. And so even after one dies here in the world, one does not move on another world, so ultimately, no one dies here and no one move on and take a rebirth. Ultimately, nevertheless, but on conventional level, on relative level, actions done are not lost. You create the karma and you experience the result of that on conventional level, on relative level. Their white and black fruit ripen inside existence, and there is no contradiction. So there is no contradiction. They are empty of truly existence. At the same time, due to many cause, condition, factors, they can function. And that is one of the beauty of the Buddha's teachings. As Nagarjuna says, as Lama Tsongkhapa says, is amazing. When you try to analyze, there's no object that exists from its own side. And because there is no object exists objectively from its own side, so there is nothing for us our mind to hold on and grasp on. And if there's nothing to hold and grasp on, there's no object to be attached to. There's no object to be angry to. So all this delusion stops because there is no object of those delusions to hold on and to grasp on, because there is no object from its own side objectively. While that is the case, at the same time, you cannot be careless with your actions and behavior. You cannot be careless because due to many causes and conditions, there's appearance and the function, and some of those can affect you a pain, some of those can give you a suffering pain, and some of them can give you a happiness and joy. And so therefore you cannot ignore your behavior and actions through body, speech, and mind. So isn't it very amazing, to be able to proceed that there is due to many conditions, cause, condition, and factors, there's appearance, there's functioning of individual objects. At the same time, there's nothing object that exists from its own side objectively. So combinations of appearance and emptiness and emptiness and appearance. And I think with the example, it helped. For example, let's take an example, mirrors here as given here. From distance, okay? From distance, and of course in a certain area, when in certain sand, where there's this shiny part, I don't know what you call, very, very shiny. Within the sand, sometimes you find, this small, very thin, like a stone, not stone, but, shiny ones. So when there is a lot of that, and then sun shining in a certain way, and you look from certain way, then there's almost kind of like in water, when you have that, what you call, sometimes in water, there's kind of shiny, you see, what do you call that water?
Shimmer.
In the lake,
Shimmer?
Simmer, yeah. Like simmer,
Simmering.
Thank you. Simmering, yeah. Like water simmering. You see like that from the distance, simmering, and you think, oh, there is water. So you have that mirrors. Even though there's appearance of water that from that directions in that, but if you analyze, examine, there's no water there at all. There's no water at all. Where its appearance is. While there's no water at all, at the same time, due to many causes and conditions, the light, due to the sudden kind of sand and all that, whatever that is called, those, and then where you are looking from your directions and so forth, it creates the appearance of mirrors. And not only there's appearance of mirrors, the mirrors has its own functioning, as a mirrors. It isn't a function of water, but it has its own functioning as a mirrors. So while it's empty of water, at the same time, there is the appearance of mirrors and it is function of mirrors. It doesn't contradict. Do you get it? While it's empty, there is the appearance and the functioning. And due to many cause conditions and factors, while there is appearance and function of mirrors, at the same time, it's empty of water. While there is appearance, it is empty. While it's empty, there is the appearance and functioning. And that is the same thing when you apply, all objects, all phenomena, even though they, even to our mind, it appears as inherently truly existent, but when you analyze it, there's absolutely not one slightest of inherent truly existent. It's empty of truly inherent. While it's empty and truly existence, due to many cause, conditions, and factors, there's appearance of whatever that individual objects, and there's function of those individual objects. So while it's empty, there's appearance. And while there's appearance, due to many cause and conditions and factors that appear and function as that object, at the same time, when you analyze this, then it is empty of truly existence. So while there is appearance, it is empty. And so because of that appearance, you cannot ignore your karma, your actions, and be careless with your actions. At the same time, while there is actions and karma, there's no inherently existent karma and actions. So there's nothing to hold on, grasp on. It's very, very interesting and profound. So I think you need to arrive at that understanding of such statements. So that is where you find in like just the quotation from this King of Concentration Sutras. Sometimes it seems to be contradict, isn't it? If you don't analyze, it seems to contradict. At one time, it says there's no dying and born and dying and all in this, and then nevertheless, again, there is a function of karma, So it seems to contradict. But here Lama Tsongkhapa was clarifying. You have to understand what are the meaning of those. So at the very beginning, when he said there is no being born, there's no dying, there's no sentient being, there's no human being, it is saying when you analyze this with that ultimate analysis, they cannot be found. Therefore, in ultimate, they don't exist. In emptiness, they do not exist. At the same time, on conventional level, on relative level, when you don't do that kind of analysis, ultimate analysis, their functions. There is a karma, there's someone who is creator of the karma, there's someone who is being born, there's someone who is creating karma, there's someone who is dying, and so all of that. So therefore, to be able to understand the two reality, the ultimate reality and conventional reality, to understand that two reality within each of the objects, not only there is a true reality into all the objects, but those two reality does not contradict each other's, but actually they support each other's. Okay, and so then another misunderstanding that we can have due to certain experience that we think maybe we might have realization emptiness because we have some experience, but that experience is not correct understanding experience of emptiness. So that is where, so here again, where it says, moreover, some do not place, so without understanding of view, the emptiness, someone can meditate deep, have a deep shamatha, okay? Go in a deep meditations and deep shamatha. So they can be meditating on deep shamatha or deep concentrations, meditative concentrations, without having the understanding of view, the emptiness. And because they have such a deep meditative concentration, because of they have such a deep meditative concentrations, very single point and very stable deep meditative concentrations. So in that, your mind does not hold any objects, in that mind, there is no saying, there is no, because your mind is totally in one with that deep meditation. So there is no like flower, there are different objects appearing, all these thoughts and objects appearing. So because all thought and all those objects kind of dissolve in that meditative state, And so then when you come out of that meditative state, through the power of that very strong meditative concentrations, then things appears, everything that you look at appears less solid, less concrete than before. Now the mountains appear more like a kind of like a very subtle, almost like a rainbow, and thin smoke here. Je Tsongkhapa use another example, but nothing like solid it appeared to us at the moment. Nothing like concrete that it appeared to them. So when you have that appearance, the practitioner can mistake, or they have the appearance of, they have understood the emptiness. They have understood the emptiness, or they are having an experience of emptiness. Now I must be having an experience of emptiness, because all this appearance of object appears so unconcrete and substantial, So here again, Lama Tsongkhapa, such is not a unmistaken understanding of emptiness experience, is not a unmistaken appearance like an illusion either. So that is where this is also not the illusion like appearance explained in the scriptures, because it is appearance of object as empty of gross abstractedness, gross abstractedness, or as a very solid concrete, rather than the appearance of object as empty of being inherently established, So then, also the meaning of emptiness, which absence of inherent existence, cannot possibly non-exist no obstructive hardness, Otherwise, there would be fault that when you apprehend embo and like as and the like as best as having attribute, it would be impossible to apprehend a truly existent to arise, and then apprehend an obstructive object as best having attribute. It would be impossible to generate consciousness relies on absence of truly existence. So, for example, when you are holding the rainbow, when you see the holding the rainbow as an object, you don't that you see that the object, the rainbow, as a not so concrete and solid and obstructive, but at the same time, you still have a grasping, inherently existing of that object, that rainbow. So that doesn't mean that when you have that, then you have understood the non-existence or truly existence of that objects. Yeah, because you have that. So then method relies on which things appear like illusions. So then I think, yeah, I think this, we will read this part. I think this will be the kind of the summary. This is kind of the like kind of summary or contents of all the things that Lama Tsongkhapa described earlier, and I had kind of condensing that more. How illusion like appearance arise. For example, you see in the illusory horse, like created by magicians, an elephant with your eye consciousness. So you see there's, because of you have been created by the magicians, then we see in our eyes, there's real horse, the real elephant. And with your mental consciousness that that is not really a horse and is not elephant. No horse, elephant, and according to appearance exists. We know it because we know it's just a creation of the magicians. So we know that even though there's that appearance to our consciousness, but in our mind, we know it is not the case as it appeared to us. In the same way, so in that, then there is on the basis of that understanding, there's appearance and your understanding. In reliance upon that, a certain man arise. That appearance of horse and elephant is like illusory false appearance. So when you are understanding that, then you know that creation of magician is a false. You know that creation of magician is a false and is like illusions. It's a trick. It is a deceptive of appearance. So in likewise, persons and such as your aggregate, so forth, undeniably appear to your conventional mind. When you look, then there is a sense of self. There is your aggregate, your physical aggregate, mental aggregate, your experiences, and so forth. All those arises to your conventional mind, while you ascertain by means of reasoning consciousness. But at the same time, when you use reasoning with the ultimate reasoning and analysis with consciousness, then you realize they are empty of inherent existence, established by its own side, by its own entity. So on understanding those two things, there's an appearance that cannot be denied to our conventional mind. At the same time, with the when you do ultimate analysis, with the ultimate analysis, then we find there are nothing exists truly existing. And so when those in reliance on those two, then a certain arise in the person and aggregates so on are illusory and false appearance. Then you understand, those are like illusions. These are like illusory. Those are the false appearance, because with your more deeper analysis or ultimate, they are not truly existing. At the same time, the appearance of those objects to our conventional mind. Due to this essential point, if the meditating in a equipoise, like a space like emptiness, which is non-existent, or even a mere particle of different objects for apprehending characteristics, hit home like illusion, like emptiness will appear to you as you look at the appearance object in post-meditation after you have arisen from the meditations. So in meditation, you try to analyze on self or whatever phenomena you meditate on, and especially when you are meditating on that. So in a space like meditations, you just kind of negate the truly existence, and then by negating truly existence of objects, that you remain in that object. When you totally negate the truly existence, and then there's come to a kind of emptiness, and you try to remain your mind totally in that empty spaces, that is empty or lack of truly existing or void of truly existing. So you remain in that and when you remain in that meditation deeply, when you come out of that meditative state, when you open your eyes, mind, everything you see, everything you hear, everything you smell, everything you taste, everything you touch, everything that comes in thought, everything appears as like a illusions automatically. It's the power of your deep meditation on that emptiness. Through the deep meditation on space like emptiness, through the power of that, when you come out of that meditative state, in post-meditation, everything when you look, see, then everything appears like illusions. So you don't have to create another like illusion. So, but that happens only when you have a deep realization of emptiness and you are in that deep meditations and come out of that. For us, since we don't have that experience, we have to remind ourselves all the time, it is like illusions. It is like illusions in our practice. That appearance doesn't come naturally at the moment. Do you get it? When you look at flower, it still looks so real. If you look at this book, it still looks so real. It doesn't appear like illusions. Whatever you smell, oh, the food must be delicious from its own side, real. It doesn't appear illusions, and everything. So we have to remind ourselves when we are training, before we have those experiences, we have to remind, oh, even though it appears so real, but it is not real as it appears. It's like an illusion. It's like an illusion. So we have to remind ourselves during the pose. But once you have direct realization of emptiness, and when you are in deep meditation of emptiness, and when you come out of that deep meditation, then everything appears natural. Then you don't have to remind yourself, you don't have to create that. It just appears naturally like illusions. And His Holiness also was sharing similar experience of his own experience, and he said in Ladakh when he was meditating on emptiness, and then everything started to appear like illusions, like a dream, just naturally, nothing. So here that's where it says, Lama Tsongkhapa says, so thus you analyze phenomena lot with the reasoning, analyzing whether or not they're established by their own existence, and you generate a strong certainty with that they lack truly existence. So we have to meditate on non-existent, of non-truly existent, non-inherent existence on that meditation again and again and again and again. Again and again and again, until you have strong certainty that they do not exist inherently at all. They do not exist inherent until you have 100% certainty in your mind without any doubt that they are empty of truly existence. They're absolutely empty of truly existence. Once you have that kind of certainty, then because you have such certainty, still there's appearance of that, then you know it is like an illusion immediately. Then you don't have to say, oh, it is like an illusion. It just appears like illusion. So that's where subsequently, when you look at appearance that arises, they will appear like illusion. There's no separate method for determining illusion like emptiness. And so I think maybe it will come later too, how to meditate, yeah, I think also here, first we'll try to meditate on the negation, emptiness part, the negation, the emptiness part, again and again and again. And when we have that certainty, then depending arising will arise. Illusion like appearance will arise subsequently. Okay. And then again, maybe it will come later also. And on the basis of that understanding that everything do not exist inherently, everything is like a illusions. On the basis of that understanding, when you engage in others method contact, such as engage in other practice, such as to create marriage, making offerings, circumambulations, or making prostrations, whatever, or reciting prayers, reciting mantras, whatever form or other practice you do, when you do, that has been supported by that understanding, like the illusions, then all this practice become very, very strong and effective, because all this method has been now supported by the wisdom. All this method practice that has been supported by the wisdom. So then you are engaging both, combining both wisdom and the method together. And when you practice in any virtues, combining both method and the wisdom together, the practice become 1,000 times more powerful than just applying wisdom or just applying the method. At the moment, we either apply just the method or we just apply the wisdom. And so therefore our practice is not so powerful and effective, whatever practice we do. But when we are able to combine those two together, then it becomes very practice. So we should try to train to practice any kind of method practice or method contact from the understanding of like illusion and appearance. Once you have trained in it, they will appear like illusion, even the mere reflection of you. So the moment you think of emptiness, after we have trained like many times, the moment you think of emptiness, that very moment, everything appears like illusions. By just recollecting the view of the emptiness, everything appears like illusion. So when everything with the mere recollections of emptiness or the view, when there is an appearance of collections, then there is no danger of falling to nihilism. There's no danger to fall nihilism, because the moment you remember and recollect the emptiness, that very moment, there's appearance of illusions, like illusions. And so, so I think I will read some of them a little bit before, then I will kind of end where it said determining the settlements of phenomena, that, and then we do that next week. Put simply, easy to understand. So again, kind of making it contents. The method for seeking this assertment is as follows, as explained earlier when he explained the 4 essential points. You should cause generally the object of negation by reasoning to appear well. So first you need to have this, identify the object of negations clearly. The object of negation clearly. So that's first point. And then what you do is consider. So with that, consider how ignorant and continue superimpose inherent existence, identify it. So when you really identify the object of negation, then you understand how, even though things are not inherent existence, but there's appearance, and how our ignorance superimpose inherent existence to the objects. And when you understand that, then you understand that ignorance is ignorance, it's a false. Instead of believing that ignorance to be true. And that is what happened at the moment. We don't recognize ignorance as ignorance. We don't recognize ignorance as a false, but we actually, so that is the, and then once you have that, then you should consider if there was such inherent existence, if you think object were inherent existence as it appear and apprehended by the ignorance, it will be beyond, either it has to be one with its parts or basis, or it has to be different from the parts and its basis. And if it is one with if it is a one with inherent existence, one with the basis and the parts, then there is problem, as mentioned before, you know, and there will be a problem. And if it is different, inherently existing different, again, you know, there's a fault, as explained again, many faults that we explained before. So you try to analyze, and through that analyzing, then you come to a conclusion is neither one with inherently existing one, neither is inherently separate or different from the basis, and therefore there's no inherently existing at all, is totally empty of truly or inherently existence. So you come to that. At that time, when those, okay, so the next one, yeah. So then once you come to that, then you should let the undeniable appearance of destination person arise object of your mind. And so then when you open your eyes, ear, nose, mouth, body, and consciousness, then there is different objects, individual different objects appear, let it appear, you know. And when that, then attend to the interdependent factor or positing them as accumulator. And so then, you know, due to many factors, the persons is the one, due to the persons aggregates, the person's mind, person's three doors, and all of that coming together, that person create the karma, and that person is the creator of the karma. So then you understand, due to all these many factors, conditions, then you see, oh, there is this person is the creator of the karma, you know, and who experience the result of their actions or karma. And then you gain certainty about how interdependent is valid in the absence of inherent existence. So while there is no inherent existence, at the same time, there's a dependent arising that functions and that affects one set and others. And so you gain certainty in those two areas, you know. One area is not truly existing, one area is there dependent arising due to many factors that it exists and it functions. And it and so focus on these two areas to have a certainty in both those areas. And then when you seem to contradict each other, when you see dependent arising, it seems to contradict emptiness. When you see emptiness, it seems to contradict the dependent arising. Then you use the example, such as the illusions, mirage, and reflections of the moon. In that, how even though there is no real moon, even though it's empty of the moon in the lake, but at the same time there's appearance of the lake, moon in the lake, and functioning of that. And so through that, then so through that, then we see non-contradiction of those two, and then able to see appearance like illusions and dream and so forth. So okay, so I think we'll I don't know whether there's okay, I think this is just PDF. Okay. So thank you very much. So have a lovely discussions. And again, thank you, Bob, for leading the discussions. So we'll do the dedications. This is not dedications. Okay, thank you. Due to the merit of these virtuous actions, may I quickly attain the state of Guru Buddha and lead all living beings without exception into that enlightened state. May the supreme jewel Bodhicitta that has not arisen, arise and grow, and may that which is arising not diminish but increase more and more. Maybe, yeah. The wish granting, wish fulfilling jewel, source of every single benefit and happiness in this world, For the incomparable kindness in Joshua, I beseech, may all your holy wishes be spontaneously fulfilled. You who uphold the subdued moral way, who serve as a bountiful barrier of all sustaining, preserving, splendid, mentioned, victorious doctrine, who masterfully accomplish magnificent prayer, honoring the three jewels, severe myself and others, your disciple, please live long. Venerable One, to you whose kindness exists that of all conqueror for those who wander in the far places, especially the West, mindful of your loving concern for us, in intention descending again into a family of far distant land, we make this request. Yeah, we don't need to recite that one. Thank you. Okay. Okay, good night.
Thank you.
Thank you, Geshe. Good night.
Thank you everyone. Good night. Thank you.
Thank you.